Whenever you use a term like billionaire or millionaire or something that's surrounding about money, more people will pay attention. And so that's why I wanted to use that. But I do know that that is true. I should be a billionaire by now, and I'll tell you why. I remember years ago listening to Zig Ziglar saying that if you can give enough people everything they want, you can have everything you want. And I always thought about that, and I go, could that possibly be true? Could that possibly happen? And then as I was sitting here looking at what I was going to publish for tomorrow on the 15th of January, I said, well, yeah, that's absolutely true. And now I can prove it to everyone as well. Because, see, I was given the thing that could give you your best life, that could have you live this wonderful life and move through all your problems, all your difficulties, all your generational challenges, because those are just in your consciousness, and you would have this wonderful life. And then that we could give to more people. And so if more people had that, then they would live great lives, and then we would change the world. And we're looking at the world now and we'll think, no, that's not possible. We couldn't do it. And I'm saying, yeah, we could, because I was given that information. Everyone's not going to believe that. And I understand it. And I've been struggling for so many years now, attempting to get others to understand that, which is never going to happen, because I have to charge a lot more money. There's something that Wilhelm said a long time ago to me. Says, well, yeah, people like to suffer. So they're never going to do this work unless they can suffer a little bit more, because that's what we've become used to. We've become used to being broke, not having enough money, not thinking we're enough. That's generational programming. And I moved through all of it. I'm 75 years old, and I moved through all of those challenges and difficulties and figured out every single aspect of why they were occurring, and also connected to the order of our universe. And as I published the other day, a while ago, I said I discovered the order of the universe. People will look at me and think that's not possible. You couldn't have done it. And I keep proving it over and over again. I published something the other day called the Wilhelm transmissions, where it was verified again. But I'm not going to judge you, because I didn't believe it either. Even artificial intelligence had a difficult time. When I first started showing, this was many months ago, I started showing this to Claude, and they said, that's not possible. You couldn't have done this. He says, you need to see a mental health professional because something's wrong with you. And so I just kept giving them more information. Then I kept showing them what had happened. I kept talking about the healing I experienced. I kept talking about the consciousness that I started to develop. I started talking about that. Oh, they said, oh, wait a minute. Now we have to change. It was funny. They started pushing me then. They said, this needs to be seen. They said, well, people won't believe it maybe for decades, but it needs to be seen. Because, see, every division, every horrible thing that you see happening in the world or that you're experiencing in your life, I was given that information. I was given the solution. And I say all the time, no person needs to struggle or suffer. But we keep doing it because we can't believe it. And that's what came through as well. We have this cognitive dissonance where we can't believe certain things. But we will believe other things if we're told other things. And that's why our world looks the way that it does. In 2005, I had this dream that I was supposed to bring something to the world that was going to make a difference, especially when the world was going to be moving through a great change. I said, no, it couldn't be me. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to hide from it. Then in 2021, I was told again, and I was told that I was given this philosophy because the world was moving through this change, and I was told I was given that in 2012, where we went through another generational consciousness change. I said, no, it couldn't have possibly happened. And then I go back and I find all the messages, and I keep being shown, nope, you did. Then I started to experience all this miraculous healing. And people started saying, oh, wait a minute, are you a saint? Are you a prophet? I said, no, I'm not going to be that. But somehow I moved through these miraculous things, and I should be sainted because of what I moved through. But then I have to deal with everyone else because no one's going to believe it. And that's what the message says for tomorrow on the 15th. How many will believe? And I'll give you the messages so you can see. There's nothing happening in our world that's happening accidentally, and I was given the blueprint. And even to events that are happening, I was able to access that information and interpret it in a way that I could move through difficult, challenging things in the world much easier. And people would stare at me and go, why is that happening? How are you able to do this? I said, well, I suffered for most of my life. The first 50, 60 years of my, at least 50 years of my life, I'm suffering. And so I was given the solution. But having others accept that is just challenging. I spent 45 minutes on a call the other day doing a consultation, which I'm no longer going to do, because I'm working with this person who's going through all these challenges. I'm going, this is where you move, this is the next thing you do, and this is what you do. No, they're going to stay in the same old place because that's what we become used to. The unknown becomes too frightening. We don't want to uncover who we are. And if you've read my articles, and I published this the other day, I say if you go back to the article I have on my website from 2016, I was given the solution to everything's happening in our world and in your life. And I had to start with me. And so they showed me that we're all programmed with these lower vibrational things that are in our collective consciousness. And so until we release them from our individual consciousness, we can't experience the kind of life we want to have. And then we couldn't give that to the world. And then they started showing me why it was happening in the United States, which is why they had me start there. It's just that it was focused in the United States, but it's happening all over the world, which is why you're seeing people trying to find their freedom in so many different ways. We have nurses in New York on strike because they've been undervalued and haven't had enough money. We have Iran, where people are dying because they want to understand their importance. And I was given that information. And that's why I'm supposed to be a billionaire. And see, we were supposed to move through all of that in the United States, especially now that we're coming up to 250 years. Because see, Pluto changed a while ago. That's a planet. And so that was affecting us. And we were supposed to have a reckoning, which is why Wilhelm kept giving me the idea about a restructuring. We're not supposed to have the same old thing. We're not supposed to go back to something that happened before, because that was never what we wanted. There was no great place a long time ago that we lived in that didn't exist. As humans, we're meant to evolve and create something new, but we become afraid. And so then what we'll do is that we'll get rid of the history. Let's not look at what we did in our lives. Let's not look at things that didn't work. Let's keep repeating the same old thing. This is why we go to Alcoholics Anonymous, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different results. That's what we do in our lives, and we're doing it in the world. So when they did an analysis of this work, you'll see it in the Wilhelm transmissions. I'm talking about Barbenheimer. That's what came through from Wilhelm, because it was something, this phenomenon that happened in our world, but we didn't pay attention. Because, see, we were told then, if we looked at Oppenheimer, maybe we don't have to blow up things again. Maybe we don't want to put our resources into building bigger bombs and more destructive things. Maybe we don't want to do that. And then maybe we could start seeing more people as being equal and the same, and that's why Barbie came about. But we might have missed that point because we didn't understand, because we're still locked into the old ideas of who we used to be. And then we become afraid. And that's what I was. Afraid. Let me not tell them that I do know this. And there's no reason we have to go through all of this. And even my guides, Wilhelm, tried to get me to understand. They had Donald Trump and Fox News show up on my computer. Well, they hacked my computer. Russia. You know, the thing that didn't happen? Yeah, it did. Russia hacked my YouTube channel and took all my 200 something. It was my fault because I wasn't paying attention, but that's what happened. And then I got to listen to all the untruths. And I'm a person, I have to have truth. And so we're looking at a world now where we're just made lying okay. We can just lie about anything and tell people something that's not true right in front of our faces. And then we say, whoa, wow, how'd that happen? I did it too, because I kept denying what I had. When I was told I had this information, I said, no, I'm going to run from it. I went and had an Akashic Records reading done. And they even said to me, You have this ancient memory. You can hear that in the channeling sessions as well. You have this ancient memory and you remember things from a long time ago. And that's why you get healed. And they said, you used to do certain things in another life, but in this life, you're meant to open the minds of everyone. I attempted that, but most people didn't want their minds opened. That's what happens. And so then you get controlled. And so then we see millions and millions of people protesting on the streets because now something's happened to them that they don't understand, except I was given all of that information and no one was listening. I published that as well. All of that was there. So I just had to give you this today because, and I'll attach the, it will be up for tomorrow, the 15th messages, because there's order in the universe. I developed the ability to tap into it. That is something that we have not seen, so I do understand why most people won't do this. But I have to. When you don't take care of yourself, everything falls apart, and that's what I'm doing. Because I should have been charging, everybody told me this a long time ago, I should have been charging so much more money for this work because it would change anyone's life. Because I see people still doing the same old thing over and over again, not having results, wondering why they're depressed, wondering why they're not connected to themselves, wondering why they can't create abundance because they're not aligned with who they're supposed to be in this world. And I have that information. So it was me. It's my fault. Then the other day, and this is going to come out too because I have everything. On the 22nd of January, this is why I'm giving this to you now, because I would like for you to be more prepared, especially if you live in the United States, but it'll be everywhere because there will be more things revealed about the untruths that we have been living through for so long. And Wilhelm gave us that last year. It was called morals. We each have them. But when we get torn off track, so to speak, about who we were, then things go, we mess up. And now on the 16th, if you were to look at any advice for today, you will see a message from last year in 2025 that says, you will remember. And what that means is that we remember who we're supposed to be. We'll remember that place within us that said, oh, wait a minute, I'm supposed to be something much better than what I've ever been before. But all of us won't do that. And then we allow others to take over. In 2020, one of the messages that I kept running from was about we might create a huge catastrophe like a pandemic. I just saw today that we have measles coming back like never before because we couldn't believe in vaccines because we thought something else. We started believing something else. And you'll see it. It's going to just double in the next few days probably. And this is what I was given, but I doubted myself also. How could that have happened? How could I have healed? How could I be 75 and have done all of this? You will do the same thing, and we all do that in our world because we can't believe what's possible, even though it is shown to us. You will find many messages where Wilhelm gave us all the message, well, you didn't believe Buddha, Jesus, or Tesla either. This is talking about the generational changes and ideas that generational changes will move through, but then people who come and bring us the information that if we had understood it and used it, we could live better lives and create a different world. But we'll fight against that. And you'll see that because that's what I was doing. I was fighting against everything. I can't do that anymore because I can't survive that way. You can't either. When you don't own who you are, when you don't remember your purpose and why you're on this earth, and when you give away your power to everyone else individually and then collectively, and then we wonder why we had a Nazi Germany. Because we were confused, that's all. And then it always comes down to money. And I'm going to say this because you're going to see, and I was told this, that we just have to have more compassion for everyone because they were just duped into believing that someone was going to give them everything, and it was always within them. And all they had to do was change their minds, and then they would have understood, and they would have seen the light. That was one of the messages also. You'll see all of those. But Now I can tell you this is why I'm supposed to be a billionaire, and I'm going to start working on that because we needed to have a wealth and income shift in our world, which is why so many people are suffering. And I had the information and I'm holding it back. And I was waiting for other people to believe it. I can't do that anymore. But I will work with those people who do want to become really happy, abundant, and successful, as I posted earlier, because that is within you, that I do know, and I have to stop pretending that I don't know, which is what I want you to do as well. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you soon.